Hey, give me a smooch for good luck. I might not make it back.
Go get him, boss.
You complete me?
Welcome back to Your Geek News, and this time we're giving you a rundown of a film we've both been very excited about since we saw the first one, Iron Man 2.
Now, it would have been really easy to just copy the exact formula of the first movie, but this time there was no dirty Tony in a cave, no Tony at the mercy of terrorists, and no heroic Tony rescuing a village single-handedly.
Instead, it starts off with a selfish, egotistical Tony who is more ostentatious than ever, but not before we meet the main villain, Ivan Vanko, played by our favorite drooling, mumbling Neanderthal Mickey Rourke.
Okay, before we tear a strip off Rourke's leathery back, let's break this baby down to the kickoff to the 2010 blockbuster season, and then as a sequel to a beloved movie about a beloved character from a beloved comic.
It was brilliant that the movie started off 5 minutes before the end of the first one, at the press conference where Tony admits he's Iron Man.
Except this time we see it in Russia and immediately get introduced to not only the main bad guy in the movie, Ivan Vanko, but the sad story of a dying Russian physicist whose bright legacy was crushed by Howard Stark, giving Ivan fuel for his vengeful fire.
Now, in the first 10 minutes, Ivan's father dies, Rourke spends a moment awkwardly roaring, and then he's immediately on his way not only deciphering his genius father's blueprints to the arc reactor technology, but improving upon it as effortlessly as Tony Stark. It might have helped if we knew he was also a genius physicist and not just a grubby criminal.
No kidding. Now, it started off with a dirty Ivan working vengefully, mirroring Tony's first challenge in part one. If that was an attempt to make us care about him, it failed.
Yeah.
Rourke was kind of awful. Honestly, he mumbled so much that I couldn't tell when he was speaking English or Russian.
Oh, agreed. He was the most distracting part of the film, but not in a good way.
No. Now, the rest of the movie, however, was exactly what I could have hoped for as a follow-up. It was awesome.
Yeah, agreed. You know, Gwyneth was an endearing Pepper Potts and an even greater responsible woman this time because she's the new chairman and CEO of Stark Industries.
Now, we even get to see more of Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan, which is a great cameo.
He's hilarious. And you know what? We meet a handful of new characters in this one aside from Mickey Rourke. We have Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer. He might have been my favorite new character.
You know what? There's something about him that just felt like the Steve Ballmer character to Tony Stark's Steve Jobs. Like, it was a great goofy...
When he comes, like, dancing out?
Yeah, like, he's so desperate to be as cool and as good at what he does and just can't measure up because there's just a coolness he does not have.
Oh my gosh, and then for me, admittedly, I was dying at the part where he's selling off the weapons to the military to armor up
This isn't disco enough for you. I see what you mean.
Oh my god, he's just so funny, his little monologue there, and then with the ex-wife. Holy
Oh
crap.
my god. The bunker under the bunker. It was just so funny.
Oh my gosh, it's so smart.
And
it
it
could
paid
write
off
Ulysses,
so well.
or makes Ulysses look like it was written in crayon. Oh my gosh, I could read it to you. Anyway,
Now,
brilliant.
Scarlett Johansson, I've got to say, she nailed it. I really enjoyed her as Black Widow, having never actually been called Black Widow.
No,
at any
she's
point in
Natalie
the movie.
Rushman or Natasha Romanoff.
Both are aliases for her, which worked really well, but to me, the best addition to this was not really an addition of character, an addition of actor, because Don Cheadle knocked it out.
He was great. He was fantastic. Did a great job at carrying on kind of the same persona that Terrence Howard brought on.
But made him more military. Like, there was something about him in the first one that didn't work for me. But in this one, Rhodey just felt perfectly at home in the military. It worked really well for me.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, definitely. He definitely had more military, but I thought that he brought on the heart very well as well. So very good.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I can't express how many times I personally geeked out when I saw our universe's reporters and shows making cameos in this movie, like G4's Olivia Munn at the beginning, or my absolute favorite, CNN's Christiane Amanpour. Oh my gosh, I was dying.
I can't express how many times I geeked out when I saw little nuggets from other storylines brilliantly woven into the movie, like Captain America's shield again, and the coverage of Incredible Hulk. At the very end, you see this point where it's that attack from the Incredible Hulk, which was so cool. We got a bunch of stuff about the Avengers, right down to the supernatural nanny-loving Agent Coulson. It was great.
Gosh. Now, within the first hour, we get Rhodey and Tony at odds with each other, and Tony has his own internal demons to contend with. Oh, and an epic birthday party scene where Tony pees himself while inside the Iron Man suit.
Amazing.
Awkward.
When he's drunk in that outfit, it's so much fun.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? The characters just bounce off each other wonderfully, and the stories converge just as you start to think that they're getting a little haywire. It was so well done.
Yeah, exactly. It's a killer blockbuster, to be sure, but let's take a look at how well it stayed true to the first film and to the character of Iron Man.
What I saw you do to Tony Stark on that track, wow. You need my resources. I want to make Iron Man look like an antique.
Okay, please let me start this by saying how happy I am to see Robert Downey Jr. reprise his role as Tony Stark. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, who is Iron Man. Therefore, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, which makes this actor even impossibly cooler than he was before.
And his fashion is right up to par with the first, with another 3 Iron Man suits appearing.
Oh, yeah.
And now I love the fact that we got to see the suitcase suit as the Silver Centurion coloring. No flight, no icing problems, no need for the gold plating. Plus, a public superhero needs that kind of backup. He's got no superpowers.
Exactly. We also get a really good reason for the round chess piece to turn into the familiar triangle configuration, but we'll get to that later.
Now, right off, the first big question is, what does Stark Industries do now? It's been 6 months since the last film, and we really don't see what they do. They're not making weapons, so what are they doing?
Exactly. Now, I got the impression he was relaunching Stark Expo as this new kind of exhibition where innovation and technology are celebrated. So, kind of like a mashup of Mac Expo and TED Talks.
Now, the cool thing about the Stark Expo is it arcs throughout the entire film, and it's a way to get into the history of the Stark family. It makes it relevant to talk about Howard Stark and his involvement with S.H.I.E.L.D., and it really gets up this emotional baggage for Tony because it gives you the opportunity for Tony to almost interact with his father in a way that, you know, the character was only in photos in the first one, and he was played by a different actor this time.
Now, that interaction really broadens out his character and gets him back in the lab. Innovating, which is true to his character in the comics. Tony Stark is not just a superhero, he's a scientist.
Exactly, and in that context, he builds a particle accelerator from scratch and then builds a new element. Now, the science here is purposefully very vague because that element would probably be radioactive and blink out of existence immediately, but man, was it ever epic.
And it explains how he gets the triangular chess piece, since the new element, which he randomly makes from a triangular piece of metal, is the cure he's been looking for the poisonous palladium plate he's been putting into his chest since saving his life in the first film.
But the best part is definitely Rhodey turning into War Machine.
Although you only hear that name referenced once as kind of an offhanded remark.
Now, Rhodey was in the Mark II suit within the first hour of the film, but did anyone else wonder how the heck it was powered? Tony uses the arc reactor in his chest to power it, but the Mark II just happened to have one running the suit. I call shenanigans.
You know what, good question, but really, let's get to the heart-thumping, edge-of-your-seat battle we see between Mark II and Mark IV, Rhodey versus Tony Stark.
That fight was awesome. It was heartfelt and it was a complete surprise.
Yeah.
It was not advertised at all. And the amazing thing was it was very even between a drunk Tony and a cherry-popped Rhodey who was learning to use the suit.
Oh my gosh. Now, speaking of epic fights, I loved the scene towards the end in the Japanese Garden Dome when Tony and Rhodey take on the Hammer Drones.
It was like watching two buddies play a video game together.
Oh my god,
It was
totally.
great.
But you know what? They were enjoying that way too much. But admittedly, if that's the future of paintballing or laser tag, I would be very down with that.
Now, the Crimson Dynamo essentially happened at this point, although I think he spent a bit too much time with his head hanging out of his
Yeah,
suit.
no kidding. You'd think his face would have liquefied after the repulsor double whammy from the 2 Iron Men, but you know what? Oh well.
Now, just like the last Iron Man, you definitely want to stick around to the end. There is a post-credit treat that's a bit of a passing of the torch from Favreau to Branagh. You want to stick around.
Definitely. All in all, it's a worthy second chapter in the Iron Man story, and I cannot wait to watch it again.
Now, we'll be seeing Tony rocking the suit again in Avengers in 2012, but with an opening weekend that easily cracked 100 million. We can rest assured there's an Iron Man 3 coming too.
But hopefully we'll see a villain that can bring more than just another arc reactor-powered battle suit to the table.
Yeah, so anyway, remember to keep your eyes here for a look at all your geek movies and all your geek games from the two geeks who always have something to say.
And you can keep up with all our past previews and reviews and have your say on yourgeeknews.com.